I'd like to welcome you all to the December 8th, 2021 regular Cicero Town Board meeting. Please note the exits up here in the front and the rear of the building. I'd like to announce for everyone here who's here, in addition to the board members, we have Supervisor-elect Aragano, Councilman-elect Mauricio, Tracy Councilman, Gretchen Walter, Robert Jermaine, Chris Woznicka, Nicole Walsh, Kate Fiorillo, Steve Returno, Teresa Roth, Elko Johans, and Wayne Freeman. Clerk will please call the roll.
Counselor Boyke.
Here.
Counselor Carr.
Here.
Counselor White.
Here.
Counselor Bacallo.
Here.
Supervisor Meyer.
Thank you. Here. First item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. I had scheduled Mr. John Schatz, who's a World War II veteran, to be here this evening. Evidently, he hasn't been able to make it. If he does arrive in a few minutes, I'll be sure to introduce him and present him here to the folks at the meeting. So that being said, I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment to recognize our troops in harm's way. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Pearl Harbor Anniversary Acknowledgement. We all know that yesterday was Pearl Harbor Day. Today, December 8th, is another historic moment. December 8th, 1941, U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt stood before Congress and gave what is now known as his Day of Infamy or Pearl Harbor speech. The speech was given only a day after the Empire of Japan strike on the United States naval base at Pearl Harbor. I'll give you the initial part of his speech. Mr. Vice President, Mr. Speaker, members of the Senate and the House of Representatives, yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a day that will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. Later on in the speech, he also pointed out that, as he said, last night, the Japanese forces also attacked Hong Kong, Guam, Philippines, Wake Island, and this morning, that was December 8th, 41, attacked Midway Island. Wayne Freeman has put together a number of slides that cover a number of the parts of Pearl Harbor where it got all that attention, and we'll have Wayne kind of go through them with you. Go ahead, Wayne. Yep. Yeah. Well, I'm kind of narrating. This is obviously an aerial from that scene that day. Japanese fighter that was destroyed that day. The bombing. My father-in-law was very close to that. He was at Hickam Field, not too far away from Pearl Harbor. Again, another aircraft that was shot down. Okay. We'll get into a number of the ships that were in the area. And then when we get to the end, yeah, you can just keep going, Wayne. And then we'll see the ones that were at actually Pearl Harbor and the memorial afterwards. The comments from the commanders who were there that day, they didn't know how badly we were affected on that day, if they had come back one more time or if they had invaded. And frankly, the troops who were there expected they were going to be invaded. And they expected if they did, they were going to just totally overrun, the Hawaiian Islands. Okay, now, most people recognize this and they think this is the memorial for the Arizona. It kind of is, but really isn't. That's a structure that's over the ship. The ship is underneath that. This straddles the Arizona. That's the inside. You would take a shuttle over from the mainland and then go over to the this area. At the far wall is a list of all the soldiers, sailors, Marines that were on the ship. This is looking from outside one of those windows at the remains of the ship. And there's an aerial view. If you are looking out that glass over, looking at the Arizona there, actually, if you stood there for long enough, you could every once in a while see a drop of oil come up out of the ship. It was 50 years after the ship was destroyed that day, the oil was still coming up. It's a very eerie feeling, to say the least. There's the flag that's over the Arizona. Take it away. So, next item on the agenda, number 3, Nancy.
Approval of abstracts. Resolved, the Cicero Town Board approves abstract numbers 45 dated November 10th, 2021, number 46 dated November 17th, 2021, number 47 dated November 24th, 2021, and number 48 dated December 1st, 2021.
Second.
Second, discussion on the item. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey.
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Vaccaro.
Aye.
Supervisor Myers.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Next item, Nancy.
Budget modifications and transfers. Resolved, the budget modifications and transfers are approved as presented.
Second.
Discussion. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey.
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Vaccaro.
Aye.
Supervisor Myers.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Okay, we have a court stenographer here with us this evening, and to respect his time, we're going to go a little bit out of order. We're going to go down to number 9, which is the continuation of the public hearing for the planning board residency. Then we'll go back to number 5. So the clerk has provided posting for this item, and the clerk will please note the time for this evening for the continuation. Okay, are there any board members who have any comments on this item this evening?
At this time, I would move to close the public hearing and take no action at this time.
Second.
Further discussion from the board members on the item?
Yeah. Since there's been a lot of time expended on this, could you elaborate on why you're closing it?
I think that there is evidence in both directions. I'm not prepared to move forward at this time. I don't know if anybody else on the board is, and I think it's appropriate to close and take no further action. The board could revisit the issue in the future if it became necessary or if further evidence came to light.
After bringing all of this stress and everything onto one of the board members, I would think that a possible apology might be in order, at least.
I have no intention of bringing an apology. As I said, there is evidence both in what happened before and after the board member learned that this body was investigating it. This is not a situation created by the town board. And I think the request for a apology is frankly bizarre and out of order.
Wow.
Mr. Jermaine, I'm going to let you get back to the Judy. I just want to clear up one item. There was some discussion last time about this public hearing and administrative action. Would you please review that with the board as far as this particular public hearing?
Right. The law itself calls for what's a public hearing. It says the words public hearing, but that's been interpreted to mean an administrative hearing. Really, the board's opportunity in a situation like this, to ask questions, fact find, to determine whether or not grounds exist, whether or not there's cause. So although it says the word public hearing in the town law, it's actually administrative.
And I would further elaborate that case law establishes that in a legislative hearing, which invites public input, is not the type of public hearing the statute refers to. Is that correct?
Absolutely true. This isn't it's not a public hearing that we're used to. Okay, this is the board's opportunity. Question.
And further to that, I would point out, as we discussed last time, that the board made 2 invitations to the planning board member in question to come speak to the board privately, thereby avoiding the necessity of a public hearing. And those 2 invitations were declined, which is why we ended up here tonight.
Okay, I'm sorry, I interrupted Ms. Blakey. Did you have anything further, Judy?
Yes, now that our counsel has spoke, it is my understanding that an administrative hearing is conducted by a judge. There's someone that is in control of that hearing. That, yes, the hearing that was published as a public hearing was basically a hearing. But an administrative hearing, according to all of the due diligence that I've done, is conducted by a judge who is in charge, and that is only after a cause has been determined. And we as a board or whatever, obviously there's been no cause. So with that, there would be no, it would not go further to a administrative hearing. Is it not correct?
Part of that's correct. Part is,
We can't hear you.
sorry. Part of what you said is correct and part is not. The administrative hearing is held by the town board at this level to determine whether or not you believe, and look into the matter, whether or not you believe there were grounds to remove a planning board member. If it goes forward, then it could go to court, obviously, where a judge would rule. The other ability you had in lieu of holding your fact finding and administrative hearing, you had the ability to go to court to seek what we call a declaratory judgment from a judge. Those are the options. But the town law does allow for an administrative hearing, which I think you've had. I missed it last time, thank God.
Mhm. But the town board does not have the ability to remove. All they can do is find cause. Is that correct?
That's not correct.
Mr. Jermaine, if I may, we're reading from Town Law, Section 271. The town board shall have the power to remove, after public hearing, any member of the planning board for cause.
That's correct. You do have the power to remove.
That is state law.
All right, because I'm not an attorney, obviously, but being a board member and obviously doing my due diligence in order to fully understand this procedure, that there is a lot of ifs involved with this. So with that, I will stop my questions. Thank you.
Okay, further comments from the board? I'll be closing the public hearing. Wait,
It was just explained to you, Mr. Snyder. It's not that kind of public hearing.
Gentlemen, Mr. Sire. Please. Okay, we're on to the next item. I'm going back to the regular agenda number 5.
Well, we need to vote on the motion, Mr. I proposed a resolution that was seconded.
Mr. Jermaine, do we need to vote on that, or could we just close the public hearing and move on? What's the proper process on that?
That's up to the board. You've got the ability to vote on the motion, which I believe is to take no further action at this time. Or if you don't take any action, you have the same effect.
Okay. Clerk will please read back the motion so that we get it clear.
Counselor Carr stated that there was no further action at this time. No second.
Like seconded.
Okay, so we all set on that resolution? Okay, discussion on the resolution. Well,
Go ahead, Judy.
Go ahead, you started.
So we're voting yes for no action or
At
no
this
for
time.
action.
At this time.
That's why I wanted it read back and
Yeah. little
Everybody
confusing, but
understand what we're
I
doing?
get it. I get it.
Got it?
Or we can just take no action, period.
Right. Okay, so again, any questions on the motion?
Yes, I am concerned with the statement, no action at this time. This needs to be closed, determined. This poor person has gone through a lot of stress. And it's time that it either is determined or it's closed, period. This is just unrelentless to this person. The word at this time should not even be in there. It's either closed and you can do it again whenever you feel like it.
Mr. Supervisor, please call the question.
I'm sorry, sir. We're going to let all the members have an opportunity to have their comment. All right, are there any other comments on this item? Okay, hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
I vote no because it is open-ended.
Counselor Carr,
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor DeCarlo,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
No, item is adopted. Okay, we're back to the regular agenda, number 5. Okay, public hearing to opt out of legalized marijuana sales. Clerk, please note the time. Clerk has advised me of the proper posting. Public hearing to opt out of legalized marijuana sales in Cicero, whereas New York State Budget Bill enacted January 20th, 2021, contained provisions related to the legalization of sales and regulation and taxation of cannabis products in New York. And whereas New York State Legislature enacted the New York State Cannabis Regulation and Taxation Act, also cited as New York State Cannabis Law, which was signed into law on March 31st, 2021. And whereas Section 131 of the Cannabis Law, Municipal Control and Preemption provides towns may pass a local law subject to permissive referendum to opt out of allowing adult use cannabis retail dispensary and on-site consumption license within the municipal jurisdiction of the town of Cicero. Now therefore be resolved to call a public hearing on December 8th, 2021 to consider local law number 14 of 2021, calling for the town of Cicero to officially opt out of allowing marijuana dispensary sales and on-site consumption of marijuana within the town of Cicero pursuant to the provisions of the New York State Cannabis Regulation and Taxation Act. Said local law, if passed, shall be subject to permissive referendum. So that being said, any board members have any comments at this point before I open up for public comment? Okay, hearing none, open the public hearing. Those who like to speak for or against, please come to the microphone. Have your name and address for the clerk, please.
Evening. My name is James Tarrant. I'm the owner of Syracuse Emporium, Northern Lights Plaza, Mattydale. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak on my behalf, as well as all the other people that can't show up because of their professional or social positions, as well as the social stigma that's still going on because of the failed war on drugs. I have some information here that I would like to dispel some of the myths about cannabis being legalized. Cannabis legalization increases underage cannabis consumption. Reality is, according to a study by JAMA Pediatrics, legalized recreational cannabis was associated with 8% decline in teens reporting trying cannabis in the previous 30 days and a 9% decrease in teens reporting frequent use. Data from the CDC Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System similarly indicated that legalization had no impact on marijuana use among young people. Cannabis is a gateway drug. That's another myth. In reality, in recent studies in the Journal of Experimental Criminology, researchers noted that cannabis use is not a reliable gateway cause of illicit drug use, and further concluded that prohibition does not reduce illicit drug consumption. U.S. National Institute on Drug Abuse does not support the gateway theory. According to their 2020 fact sheet, the majority of people who use marijuana do not go on to use other harder substances. There are even provisional signs that legal cannabis is linked to lower opioid moralities, directly contradicting prohibition dire warnings. Another myth, cannabis legalization leads to an increase in crime. Reality, a study in 2017 study published in the Journal of Urban Economics found that dispensary closures caused nearly a 12% increase in crime surrounding areas, leading researchers to conclude that dispensaries made neighborhoods safer. Additional studies include from 2019 published in Regional Science and Urban Economics have indicated that crime rates drop significantly when states transition from cannabis prohibition to adult use legalization. Another myth, legal cannabis leads to more traffic accidents. In April of 2021, two economists from the University of Colorado at Denver and Montana State Universities published a comprehensive review of public health consequences of cannabis legalization for the National Bureau of Economic Research, encompassing dozens of published studies on traffic safety. They found that road safety improves when medical marijuana is legalized, noting cannabis as a beneficial substitute for alcohol and opioids, both statistically lead to impaired driving. While the Insurance Institute of Highway Safety recently reported the results of a study that saw an increase in traffic accidents in states that had legalized cannabis, they similarly reported that the studies of whether marijuana itself makes drivers more likely to crash have been inconsistent. And they say no increased crash risk associated to the drug except when combined with alcohol, which everybody has agrees is okay. Facts. The MRTA enables a 9% state excise tax and a 4% local excise tax on retail sales. 4% local tax is split with 25% going to the county and 75% going to the locality. 40% of the state tax revenue from retail sales is set aside for a fund to reinvest in communities disproportionately impacted by the drug war. 40% to public schools and public education, and 20% to drug treatment, prevention, education. Safety. Safety is assured with legal cannabis products through mandatory testing by licensed third-party labs. Cannabis retail locations must be 500 feet from a school and 200 feet from a place of worship. Licensed retail businesses not in compliance with applicable laws, including checking IDs with every sale, keeping strict inventory controls in place, minimum operating requirements for security, including guards, surveillance, will risk losing their retail license. Municipal control. Municipalities can govern time, place, and manner of operation of retail dispensaries and consumptions. In caveat, municipalities can't make local laws to operate unreasonable and practical. Licensed applicants must notify municipalities between 30 and 270 days prior to applying for a license of intent to apply for a license. The municipality may express an opinion for or against granting of license, and when the Office of Cannabis Management makes a decision, it must respond in writing to the municipality. Pretty much, if you guys opt in, just because somebody's applying doesn't mean that they're going to get your approval. It's something that's going to have to go through a process. It's not just going to be one popping up on every corner, because the state's going to have those restrictions. And opting in will also give you control by creating special zoning, because you need to create special zoning to have them in specific locations, because you don't want them all over the place. And with that, they bring up not in my backyard. Banning retail sales doesn't stop or slow the proliferation of legal cannabis within a community business. Municipalities may opt out of 2 of the 10 separate license types: adult use licenses and adult use on-site consumption. And these 2 businesses were created with giving the municipalities incentive, because these are the only 2 businesses where you're going to receive 3% of the sales tax. Otherwise, those 8 other businesses will be able to operate in the town and stuff, but you do not benefit from those businesses. The only 2 businesses that you're going to benefit from are the adult dispensaries and consumption centers. New Yorkers are allowed to, they'll be able to grow as well. So that's another thing you're not going to be able to stop people from doing. Be able to grow 3 plants, mature and 3 immature plants, with a total of 12 plants per household. And there's not enough economic benefit. Data science and research product manager at Cleaver Real Estate published the results of her study earlier this year, which reported property values actually rising $17,113 more in states where recreational marijuana is legal, compared to states where marijuana is illegal or limited to medicinal use. A 2019 literature review published by Leafly of 42 separate studies adds credence to Dr. Ortega's findings, noting a substantial increase in home property values when located within a half mile of a cannabis store. A 2018 study published in journal Contemporary Economic Policy likewise found a 7.7% rise in home prices when within a half mile of new cannabis stores. Now, other thing you have to remember is, like myself, my business is in the town of Salina. I'll be able to deliver. I'll be able to deliver to the town of Cicero. You won't benefit from any of the sales or the tax received on those sales. So the only thing you're doing is you're limiting access to your community, and you're preventing businesses from growing and expanding this industry in the state. I want to thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Are there any other residents looking to speak? Yes, sir. Next will be Ms. Villeneuve. Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
My
for
name's
the
Sam
record.
Anderson, lives in Superior Avenue, Cicero. First of all, I'd like to ask the gentleman, he says the town wouldn't want these dispensaries all over the place. Drink gas stations, stores, everything else, or why wouldn't we want these things all over the place?
Sir,
What?
sir, sir, you speak to the microphone, the questions and the dialogue is to the board. The other
Okay.
gentleman, please sit down. Thank you.
Okay, so I just had that question, what, food for thought, why wouldn't we want it all over like we have other ones? With regard to retail facilities availability, doesn't increase the use. I tell you what, when I went to college in the 70s and I was in a fraternity and I saw marijuana, I saw cocaine, I saw it all. Anything that increases availability is going to increase the use, in my opinion. It's my experience. I've seen it throughout my life. I saw it firsthand there. I saw people go from a normal person to just out of it in the course of a semester as they went through different drugs, that type of thing. So I think it is a gateway drug. I've seen it lead people to other things. I think the availability increase does increase the use. Safety. People are under the influence of it. They're simply not safe to drive, safe to do a lot of things in a lot of cases. Not always, but I've seen several instances where I have to go against what you say and say, no, it's not a safe thing because we don't control it. It's hard for us to tell if somebody's under the influence, unlike alcohol, where you can test it. The idea that if it's restricted, we won't benefit from this 3% or whatever. I think we need to look the other way and look at some of the things that may be non-beneficial to us if we don't restrict it. And that would go in the way of the types of things that I was talking about. So those are my points based upon what this gentleman had to say, and I'm pretty much in disagreement with him. There are a lot of things that are legal, have been legal in the past. Doesn't mean they're right. Doesn't mean they're just. My opinion is that, no, we should opt out of it because I don't think it's a good thing for our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Villeneuve?
Joyce Villeneuve, Ontario Ave. To begin with, on August 11th, Barb Evanoff asked this board whether or not you were considering an opting out law, and basically was said that referendums were not being considered by the town board or weren't for the town. My understanding is if you pass a law opting out, then it does allow the citizens to petition for a referendum. Is that correct?
Mr. Jermaine? Would you repeat the question, please?
First, as you know, from medical marijuana, some of the conditions that marijuana help, cancer.
I'm sorry, Ms. Delnay, I think you had a question. Could you repeat the question so Mr. Jermaine could
Oh,
answer it?
I'm
Okay, the answer is yes. Okay, thank you.
Cancer, Parkinson's, epilepsy, ALS, AIDS, chronic pain, PTSD, Huntington's, opioid use disorder, and other addictions. People with many of these conditions, as well as some social and psychological disorders, would self-medicate without the availability of marijuana, with alcohol, opioids, heroin, methamphetamines. Many of these people may take other medications that would interact with either alcohol or prescription pain medicines, and marijuana may be the only pain relief they have. You may believe that medical use law is enough. That's an expensive way for people to control their pain. It's an expensive route. You may believe being able to grow a couple of plants for personal use is enough. It's not. Imagine telling someone they are only allowed to have 1 6-pack a week because that should be enough. I was a bartender. That's not enough for most people. Many of the people going through chemotherapy for cancer lose their appetite and are overwhelmed with pain that even morphine doesn't work for them in the later stages. Marijuana does help them with both and allows them to maintain their weight while they're going through chemotherapy. One of the realities, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a paragraph. We have the worst substance abuse epidemic in our history raging in every small town and large city in this country. And you may think that methadone treatment is enough. It's not. Many addicts see this as trading one addiction for another. They do not find relief in the ability to function with methadone, but they do with the use of marijuana. One of the realities of sobriety from alcohol or other substances is that you find yourself isolated from the people and the activities that you once had. I know many addicts who have not been to a ball game or a concert for years because they're afraid of the exposure and going back into abusive use of substances. So medical marijuana dispensaries really are not enough. A place to socialize for people who depend on marijuana is something that will keep them from drifting back into other abuse. Because let's face it, between opioids, alcohol, marijuana, and smoking, the least problematic substance is marijuana. The Cicero government telling Cicero residents that they have to go to another town to buy or use a legal substance is just wrong. We already have adult zoning. Let's use that to put the marijuana dispensaries and use facilities in. And frankly, with the issues facing this town and town spending, you could use the money. Thank you.
Are there any other residents? Mrs. Snyder?
Tom Snyder, Legionnaire Drive. I'm not sure how I feel about what we're talking about today, but the more I read about people that are saying we ought to opt out at this point, makes sense because they're saying we ought to opt out now because if you opt in now, you cannot opt out. So when the state finally puts their act together, gets the rules and regs and what can and can't be done, and then what rules and regs we would put in as a town, then I think that would be the time that we think about opting in. Tax money coming to us, bull crap. We all know about the lottery. We know about our schools are gonna get all this money. My school taxes go up every year, so don't tell me about all the money we make from the gambling and whatnot. I think at this point, we need to do what you're suggesting, opt out. I don't think anyone's saying we're gonna opt out for the rest of our lives, but we may, if the evidence that is gonna come out of this in the next 6 months to a year, we may in fact opt out. And maybe at that point, you do it in a electoral type of thing where people would vote on it. But I think at this point, I think you're heading in the right direction. I think we ought to opt out at this point.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Tom Hayes, Backstretch Path. I know a lot of you, everybody in here covered a lot. I agree with about everything everybody had to say here, but I want to bring you up to come to you as I am a caregiver. That means that my spouse has a medical marijuana card. You go to a dispensary. If you have three choices, you're going to have a pill, you have a liquid, or you have the vape pen. Vape pen is the only one that actually works, because by the time your body digests the other stuff, you're not much there, you're wasting your money. The vape pen has 1/4 gram in it for over $60. If I go to Pennsylvania with a New York State medical marijuana card, I could get 1 gram of that for the same price or less, usually around $40. Okay. These are your citizens in your town that are going through this. Veterans on PTSD cannot get medical marijuana allowed for PTSD, neurology, TBI, anything like that. We're not allowed to have it. So they're forced to either get it legally or travel out of state to get it. You want to support your veterans, give them an avenue to do it. And plus everybody else with some of the diseases who've spoken in the past, especially with people with autoimmune disorders, they're in chronic pain. People with chronic pain have a choice: get really drunk or buy heroin. Most of us ain't gonna do that. I've been a police officer in law enforcement for over 30 years. Never, ever had a belligerent person that I had arrest or assist on arrest, put my hands on, that was high on marijuana, mostly alcohol. Everybody here, sit down, have a long day, go home, have a glass of wine, or have a beer, or have your brandy, or whatever you choose to relax. Marijuana is less harmful than that. It's not addictive. If they are dependent on it, it only takes 4 days for that to totally leave their system and have no mental or physical problems with the brain. That's a study. I get all my facts and figures from the New York State Impact Plan of 2018. That's what was given to the state before they placed a vote to make marijuana legal in New York State. Has any of you board members read that 75-page report? Town supervisor, have you consulted the opinion of the chief of police of town of Cicero?
We're not doing a question and answer, so.
Okay. So I take it that as a no. I had to go through this, so give me a minute, because a lot of people covered what I already said. I've been watching the town board for the last year, either via internet or here. We have a lot of problems. Yes, it's more of a syntax. If you let alcohol, that's what's the next thing. But 3%, what you probably be getting out of your sales of the town of Cicero, 1% goes to the county. Well, I have to do all the math here. It's going to be $1 billion business in 10 years. $1 billion. Think about that. You're going to get 3% of what? What you sell in the town. Not what the county gets, what is sold everywhere else. So let's talk about money. East Syracuse, Geddes, Marcellus, town of Onondaga, town of Tully, and the town of Van Buren are the only ones that so far said yes. Everybody else either had not voted or said no. Town of Cicero if they had a business in town of Cicero, they're definitely going to grant more population of users. People want to try it or use it already. And most of the people actually use it already probably ain't going to change where they're going to get it. Okay. 1 out of 44 people that try it, or out of 44% people that try it usually stay on it. A lot of people try it and don't like it. It's a choice. 1 out of 10 people in your adult population right now use marijuana. It's here, get used to it. Let's talk about the numbers here. So if the town of Cicero says yes, what does that do for you today or this year? You can opt out. My first opinion honestly was don't vote on it. Just let it roll, make your decision next year when you have more information. Not really on the retail sales, because you're not going to get these mom and pop shops with the retail sales. It's going to take a lot of regulations for that store to be able to operate anywhere they go. And that's also dealing with what the town zoning has to do with it. So it's going to be tough and it's going to be very expensive. So it's going to be expensive. They're going to need investors. If you sit there on the S list, more investors are going to look at the town of Cicero first this year, coming year, because there's not going to be a store open for another year and a half. They're too far behind. But the investors are going to look at where they want to invest their money at. And that's what you got to look at. We got a lot of problems here. We have a lot of problems in this town because we have more developments coming in. And we don't have the infrastructure to support it. So I think you might want to consider looking at the investor side of the house. What are you going to open up to your investors? Because it doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't. I don't care which way it goes. I'm looking at what's the benefit for our community and our town. Marijuana is already here. You're not going to get too many new users. It's here. If you want to help your people, they have disabilities. Don't make them have to go to Tully, Geddes, Marcellus, Town of Onondaga, or Van Buren. I don't have to make them have to go that far because there's only other 2 medical dispensaries that are making a killing. That's big corporate business. And we don't want them here either. So it's our choice. What are we going to do for our people? And remember, they're voters as well. As I say, 1 out of 10. Let's look at it that way. That's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments?
My name is Ashley Cox, and I live at 650 South Bay Road. I didn't expect to speak. I don't have any notes. But I would like to thank some of our guests here for sharing facts. And people had opinions as well. I would just like to share very quickly. I am a 48-year-old woman. I don't really like to drink. It gives me a headache. I do though enjoy cannabis. I am successful. I don't have any debt. I'm smart. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm a creative person in the community. And I have used marijuana to relax after a long day's work. And when stress and anxiety hits, I like to use it to create a bit of an appetite when otherwise I wouldn't have one. And in my entire life, I've never known anyone to die of weed. So frankly, the fact that we're even having these conversations feels silly. I can't imagine taking beer away from people because I guess it helps people unwind and relax and chill out and socially have a good time. Weed is not a gateway drug. I've never tried any other harder drugs that are out there. I have no desire to I hope that in my lifetime in the community that I've lived and grown up in, this is the time. It's not the time to opt out and wait longer. And the fact that y'all can make some money for our towns and villages should be really a no-brainer. Yeah, I have no more notes. And we're so close to the airport, if I may. I do love to travel. And my first stop in any place that I went to Sedona, Arizona, last month, and my first stop was a dispensary. Just as other people might, I mean, the bars are everywhere. I don't have to worry about finding a bar if I wanted to go to a bar. But for people that like to consume cannabis, it's a thing. You have to go to the place where it's legal. We are a mile, 2 miles away from the airport. Cicero could be their first stop. Travelers traveling internationally that don't like to drink. Maybe they just want to smoke a little weed. So yeah, we have a great location, and I hope that it's a yes. So thank you for having me.
Any other residents? Yes. Briefly, we have a person in the back, sir. We have a person in the back who has an opportunity.
My name is Sharice Sharon, and I actually grew up in this community. I graduated from the Cicero North Syracuse High School. I hear everyone have facts and opinions. I don't hear anyone talking about our children. I hear a lot of fear, though. I hear a lot of fear of what's coming and what we don't know and what's not in place yet. But fear hinders us. Fear shows our kids that because we fear something, we're not going to try it. We're not going to see it. We're not going to see what else is out there because we're scared of what can happen. And by doing that, we're showing them the wrong path. And I know being in this district, the canteen was my path. And I know there's not a lot of wealthy people out in Cicero. There's a lot of people who have subsidized housing. They have low income. They need help with free meals and free lunches. They need help with daycare. Their kids go to the canteen after school. What I know is the canteen is struggling. There's no way we can sit here and be like, here, and everyone's handing the canteen money and giving our children a place to go that's affordable. This is where that money can go. Everyone's talking about, oh, taxes, this and that, that's what we can get back. But what about our kids? That's the real community. And that's where I think we should really think, how are we going to teach these kids? How are we going to properly educate them? How are we going to give them the right places to go instead of saying, we're not going to allow this? And we're basically going, don't do that. What happens when we tell people, no, you can't do that? They want to go elsewhere. They want to see, well, I'm going to go outside the lines and I'm going to go somewhere else and try that because you're telling me now. And honestly, if I had the opportunity to vote on no alcohol, I would vote no alcohol. Because in 2016, I was hit by a drunk driver. I was forced to be on pain medication that did not help me. I ended up in the hospital using a walker. I couldn't play with my 4-year-old daughter. I couldn't play soccer with my son. It makes me want to cry now talking about it. The fact that there's no regulation on alcohol and we're creating these cannabis laws that there's so much regulation on, we can't even advertise it. But every Super Bowl, what is everyone watching? Every Sunday you're watching football. What are we advertising? All that beer and how we're going to party and get drunk and bond with our family members. But what is that really creating? What precedent are we setting for our children? And I think we really need to think about that now instead of the fear we have on what is going to come that we don't really know yet. And don't let fear control your decisions because so much more can come of this than just the taxes and the revenue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don Hayes, backstretch path. The only other thing is when you vote, you're voting one on the sales and the other one is on-site use, correct? There are two separate items here.
No, this is a combined resolution, actually.
The way, if you look at the state regulation.
No, I recognize, I'm just saying the way it's written, the way the resolution is written, it's a combined thing. They could be separated, but
Yes.
the way it's written, it's not.
See, I agree that as somebody that is, as some of you know, I'm trying to push for more of a community comprehensive plan. How can we improve our community? And that's going to take some money and grants, of course, but at the same time, we have to have vision. And the vision is it's going to be on our laps anyways. So you be able to use that money in a positive way for our community and take the stress off the taxpayers in the town of Cicero. The on-site though, I would recommend no, for the simple fact that there's not enough information on what you gather from the impact plan, what the Cannabis Control Board's also has put out already, and also what the Rockefeller Institute has put out. because that's where I get my 3 facts from. You know, we go all over the world and find out who has it legal and what has worked and what's not, but I don't think smokers have a certain building they go to just to enjoy and have a cigarette together. So there is really nothing out there yet for that. And it's really silly, but but down the road, 10 years from now, they're already pushing other states where you may grow it there, sell it there, and use it there, like your microbreweries that have been going that route as well. So that's where they're pushing at. That's the direction it's going. But right now, there's not enough information for, I think, anybody to have a clear opinion on it, because there's nothing out there for you to make that decision. So I recommend you at least vote no for that, but not on the other side is we can go back and forth all night long. Comes down to it is where the investor is going to come from. As I say, it's going to cost a lot of money to get one of those places open, a lot of investment. And do you want to be on the top list and have it done right? Or do we scramble to try somebody to offer investments? Because people right now that have their license, and there's a lot of them, they're wasting their money because it's going to be so expensive. It's unreal. There's so many requirements for it. So we're trying to do it a safe way. So there you go. I'm finished. Thanks.
Thank you. Any comments from the board at this point? Mr. Jermaine, would you please just kind of summarize what opting out means? And I think there's some misunderstanding about the calendar on this item. Could you kind of get us up to date on that so everybody's clear?
The calendar is, if a municipality is going to opt out of allowing either the on-site consumption or retail sales, it has to be done before the end of this year, December 31st. Later on, we have the opportunity to do what we call time, place, and manner restrictions. Those will be open. We can do those at any time. Just normal regulation type of stuff. But in order to ban the issuance of licenses for those 2 type of facilities that we're talking about, that must be done before the end of this year. No opt out after that time. You can opt in after that time. If you opt out, if the town decides to opt out now, there's the ability to opt in at a later date. But it's a firm deadline. If there's an opt out, it has to be done before the end of the year.
Okay. The board members clear on that? Okay, thank you. All right, so close the public hearing. Clerk will please. Are there any comments from the board on this issue number 5 in the public hearing? Okay, hearing none.
I would like to speak just for a moment. Obviously, not understanding a lot of the new rules and regs that would come with it, that I did look into the financial part of it, and the tax isn't clear, besides the fact that there are no real state regulations at all in place, which bothers me, because if we were to opt in, we're opting in something that isn't really been regulated yet. The part of the tax is a 9% sales tax, and 5% of it goes to the county. Of that 5%, 4% of it is divided amongst the towns, all of the towns in Onondaga County. So as an example, if the town of Cicero were to have 1 dispensary, the town of Clay were to have 4 dispensaries, say all of the other county of the townships, 1, 2, 3, whatever, it's divided according to how many dispensaries you have. So it's not an easy calculation. And that, in fact, has not even been determined. So it's not a big tax revenue. And that's all going to change again, because there's no federal regulations to start with. Thank you.
Okay, so the public hearing is closed. I'm offering number 6, seeker resolution to opt out of marijuana sales in Cicero. Resolved adoption of a resolution that the action of Cicero Town Board pursuant to New York State Cannabis Regulation Taxation Act, banning adult use dispensaries and on-site premises consumption facilities within the town of Cicero pursuant to section 131 of the cannabis law is an unlisted action with a completed EAF and involves no other permit granting agency outside the town. The proposed project will not have a significant impact on the environment and therefore does not require the preparation of an EIS.
Second.
Discussion on number 6. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Picarlo,
No.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Number 7, decision opting out marijuana sales in Cicero. Whereas after holding a public hearing and due consideration now therefore be resolved, be enacted by the town board of the town of Cicero as follows: approving local law number 14 of 2021, officially opting out of allowing adult use marijuana dispensary sales and on-site consumption facilities within the town of Cicero pursuant to section 131 of the New York State Cannabis Regulation Taxation Act. Dispensaries and on-site consumption facilities are hereby not permitted within the town of Cicero.
Second.
Second, discussion on number 7.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Councilor Boyke for her previous comments and for doing the research on the tax issue. Having discussed it with other members of the board and future members of the board, you know, I don't know how many of us are actually in favor of a permanent opt-out. You know, Mr. Snyder brought up some good points. We're given an arbitrary deadline by a state which passed this law in March and arbitrarily told us that if you want to opt out, you have to do it by the end of the year. Incidentally, placing the deadline a month and a half after all of us towns have to do our budgets, which takes up a considerable amount of time. In a state that, knowing this deadline was coming, does not have a regulatory structure in place. And there's a lot of question marks. And we're told we can regulate time, place, and manner, but not in an unreasonable way. As a lawyer, I can tell you we like the words reasonable and unreasonable because they can mean pretty much whatever we want. I'm never going to be in favor of on-site consumption. I'm always going to vote against that in the town of Cicero. In terms of retail, I'm not necessarily against it, but again, we have to do this by the end of the year or we can't do it. We don't have any ability to know what the regulations are going to be. We don't have any ability. We have no idea what we're allowed to do to regulate or restrict it. It's not a matter of fear. It's a matter of prudential lawmaking. So I'm going to vote yes on this tonight. It doesn't mean I'm in favor of permanently banning it. It's just again, this was forced on us by a state that, knowing this deadline was in place, did not get its act together and get the regulatory structure in place. If they hadn't done it that way, if this arbitrary deadline was not December 31st, it was January 31st or February 28th, I don't think we'd be having this discussion tonight. I don't think we'd be having this public hearing, so we'd have more time. I agree with a lot of what many people here have said. I don't use marijuana. I have no interest in using it. I agree that it's not a gateway drug. I think alcohol is probably the biggest gateway drug. And as a family law attorney, I can tell you that alcohol is by far the biggest drug problem that we have in this country. And it has been a factor in so many divorces and family court cases, so much more than marijuana or opiates or methamphetamine or anything else. So a lot of those points are good. The medical uses of it, absolutely. That rings true, you know, for people that I know. Again, I'm just, that's why I think, and I don't want to speak for anybody else, although the conversations I think makes me think that I'm of the same mind as many of the people here. We need more time, and the state has put this deadline on us, and that's why we're doing this now. So I'm going to vote yes, but that does not mean I'm going to be a yes forever. I've already discussed with our attorney, with other board members, some of the regulations I'd like to see in place in terms of time, place, and manner when we know a little bit more. So, you know, like I said, I'm going to be a yes tonight, but not forever.
I disagree with Mr. Carp and Ms. Boyke. It's not that we're never going to allow this. It's this deadline, and the investor point is a great point. But until we know what the regulations are, how can we let things happen until we know what we are in charge of and what we're going to be able to let people do? So I agree with Mr. Carp. I'm going to be a yes tonight for this to opt out, but that doesn't mean that it's never going to happen here.
Any further comments?
Because we have the opportunity to opt in, it gives us as a board and the opportunity to wait until we know exactly what it is that we're opting into. Because without regulations, it's open-ended. You can't opt into something that someone above us has the opportunity to change the rules, and those rules we'll have to go by if we've already said yes to it, to opt into it. So I am also, as my opinion, need to wait.
Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo,
I have to talk before I vote because I just don't want to make this an argument. I appreciate and respect the rest of my colleagues up here. I just have a differing opinion. So first, I start saying I don't participate in the use of cannabis. It was made legal on March 31st in the state of New York. It's legal, right? So there's three things that I've looked at: public safety, civil liberties, and of course, economic, which is the lowest on mine. So public safety, it's going to help remove the black market. That's what I believe. Shop owners will have the responsibilities to the community and will have to operate in the open. Civil liberties, consenting adults should be able to do what they want to do with other consenting adults as long as they're not infecting harm on anybody else. I firmly stand by that and always will. Economic, again, least important reason. I feel a real reason, it's the least one, but if it's not in Cicero, again, it'll be our neighbors. So the Office of Cannabis Management will regulate adult use, medical and hemp cannabis, OCM in short, will issue the licenses and develop regulations. We live in New York State. We love to regulate. It will be extremely regulated. I've been hearing a lot about opting out, opting in. Opting back in after we opt out. If we're going to opt out and then opt back in again, why are we even going to opt out, right? It will be following other states. This has been going on. Colorado, Massachusetts, just as an example. I sit here and it's kind of funny. I feel like we're in the movie Footloose, you know, the town that banned dancing, right? It's just interesting. So again, I respect everybody's opinions here this evening. And I will be voting no on this here. We live in America. If something's legal, it's legal. So I'm not in the business of telling someone what they can and can't do. So I vote no.
I'd like to respond to that. I know you didn't want an argument.
Excuse me. I allowed.
John, I respectfully gave you your time to.
Mr. Bacallo a moment.
And then spoke at a time when I couldn't respond.
I know. We'll let you respond. He was out of order. I'm not going to allow discussions. Once we get into a roll call.
Supervisor, you've allowed me that respect before. You have allowed me that respect before in practice. So I don't understand why you're not giving that this evening tonight, just because you disagree with my opinion.
I extended that opportunity.
You're being disrespectful, but okay.
I extended that opportunity,
Alright.
and I'm just pointing
Alright.
out that you are out of order, but I'm going to ask that you not do it again. Clerk will continue the roll call.
Out of order tonight, but never out of order before.
Thank you.
Supervisor Meyer,
Yes. Item adopted. Okay, number 8. Authorize supervisor to sign and execute documents with the state of New York concerning cannabis opt-out, whereas Town of Cicero on December 8th, 2021, passed a resolution to opt out of cannabis retail dispensaries and or on-site consumption sites. Now therefore resolved, Cicero Town Board authorizes the town supervisor to sign and execute all documents with the New York State Department of State, the Office of Cannabis Management, and any other pertinent departments pertaining to the intent of cannabis opting out resolution passed by the Cicero Town Board on December 8th, 2021.
Second.
Discussion on number 8.
Sure. With respect to the idea that legalizing marijuana will eliminate the black market, 50 to 60% of the cigarettes sold in New York City are smuggled, untaxed cigarettes. Cigarettes are something that's never been illegal in the United States, and yet they are regularly smuggled 50 to 60% in a city the size of New York to avoid taxes. So I agree, it probably will cut down on black market purchasing, but the idea that legalizing something and then taxing it heavily is going to eliminate the black market, which is untaxed, I just think that's fantasy. I have nothing further.
Further discussion on number 8. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo.
No.
Supervisor Meyer,
Yes, item's adopted. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Boyke.
memorializing the state of New York to review the owned land in Cicero and develop a plan to mitigate local flooding. Whereas the state of New York owns property in the town of Cicero, and whereas the property owned by the state of New York includes the state ditches and other open property that has an impact on local flooding, now therefore be it resolved, the Cicero Town Board memorializes the state of New York to examine state-owned property in the town of Cicero to determine if better swale management, more detention areas, or other appropriate action on the state-owned property would mitigate flooding in the town of Cicero. And be it therefore resolved that the Cicero Town Clerk send a copy of this resolution to the State of New York, DEC, and to the members of the New York State Senate and Assembly to represent this area, asking them to support this request.
Second.
Discussion on number 10.
Something I think we can all agree on at least.
Yes, mainly one of the major impacts which we had experienced and we experienced every year is in the Beach Road area. I live in Muskrat Bay, therefore I'm on the other side of the state ditch, but that ditch has never been what they call snagged, where they would go in and clean it out to allow Cicero in itself to drain down into that ditch, which then does make its way to Oneida Lake. There are 3 actual culverts that allow it to go out into the lake, which would alleviate it a little bit. I don't say it's ever going to get rid of it because obviously we have major flooding in Cicero, no matter where we are. Thank you.
Discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke?
Yes.
Counselor Carr?
Yes.
Counselor White?
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo?
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer?
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Number 11 has been pulled. Mr. Procopio asked to have that not on the agenda for this evening. Okay, going on to the next item, number 12, Nancy.
The board approves the hiring of additional seasonal wingers. Whereas the highway department has a seasonal need this winter for winger positions. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board approves the hiring of Doug Paninsky and William Carr effective November 22nd, 2021 at a pay rate of $18 per hour through December 31st, 2021, with an increase to $18.50 per hour effective January 1, 2022, budget code DB 514212.
Second.
Discussion on number 12. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke?
Yes.
Counselor Carr?
Yes.
Counselor White?
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo?
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer?
Yes, item is adopted. Jonathan?
Whereas the court is in need to fill a constable position, now therefore be it resolved, the town board approves the hiring of Daniel Myers effective December 8th, 2021 at a pay rate of $32.79 per hour, budget code A111015.
Second.
Discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke?
Yes.
Counselor Carr?
Yes.
Counselor White?
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo?
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer?
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Number 14, approve hiring of Brian T. Madison as part-time police officer effective December 9th, 2021, whereas the Cicero PD is in need of a part-time police officer, and Mr. Patterson has passed a thorough background investigation and was recommended for hire by the chief of police. Now therefore be resolved that the town board approves the hiring of Brian T. Madison as a part-time police officer at a starting rate of $25.95 per hour effective December 9th, 2021.
Second.
Second discussion on this item. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke?
Yes.
Counselor Carr?
Yes.
Counselor White?
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo?
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer?
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Mike?
Approve Richard Boise for custodial contract for the town, for the Cicero Town Hall. Whereas the current custodial contract expires at the end of the year and the town clerk's office has solicited 3 quotes rather than exercise the option to extend the current custodial contract, now therefore be it resolved. The town board approves Richard Boise to provide 2022 custodial services for Cicero Town Hall building in the amount of $14,800 as presented in a quote dated 12/1/21. The 2 other quotes were received. Bidder number 2, Blue Seal Janitorial Service, at $17,952, and bidder 3, Immaculate Commercial Cleaning, Michael P. Welch, DBA at $18,000. Budget code A162043.
Second.
Second discussion on number 15.
I think it's remarkable how close bidder 2 and bidder 3 were in price. I mean, $48. It's remarkable, but
Okay, clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Whitey.
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Picallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Jonathan?
Whereas New York State Real Property Tax Law 928-A authorizes the town of Cicero to accept partial payments of real property taxes, and whereas it is in the interest of the town of Cicero to afford taxpayers the opportunity to pay taxes in installments, it will benefit the town of Cicero to have the ability to accept partial payments of real property taxes. Now therefore be it resolved, the town of Cicero receiver of taxes is hereby authorized to accept partial payments of town and county real property taxes, special ad valorem levies, and special assessments, and to apply such partial payments to the amount owed, and be it further resolved, partial payments shall be subject to the following conditions.
Second.
Well, I'm
Oh, sorry.
jump the gun. Each payment shall be any amount of the total unpaid current year real property taxes, special ad valorem levies, and special assessments. Any amount of partial payments may be accepted during the 90-day collection period. The first partial payment shall be made at any time. However, if the first payment is made after the initial penalty-free period, the collection penalties will be applied to the payment based on the penalty schedule, and be it further resolved that acceptance of partial payments shall not be deemed to alter or limit any liens or powers of the town of Cicero conferred by general, special, or local law. The town of Cicero shall continue to have all rights and powers to enforce collection of taxes and liens together with interest, penalties, and other lawful charges.
Second. You just read it with such command.
Discussion on this item?
With
Nicole?
Ms. Walsh.
Yeah, hi there, guys. So the first thing is the partial payment started in 1995, and it's only changed once in the whole time since then. In 2018, they changed the law, so now the towns can set the rules. The main thing we're trying to look to do is to allow for the partial payments. Right now, with the old rules, if someone came in on February 1st and the first 30 days ended on January 31st, I could not accept any partial payments for them. And so people were stuck until either they could pay the whole amount or it went to the county where they do accept partial payments at any time for delinquent taxes. So we're just basically trying to make it more affordable to the taxpayers and work more with people who are having financial issues where they can't pay the whole amount at the first time.
Sounds like a common sense thing.
Just for those who are interested, I was the sponsor of that legislation back when it was done with the change at countywide, and it came out of Cicero.
Yep.
Receiver and the town board at that time were advocating for this action, try to make it a little more common sense for the residents to be able to make partial payments. And thanks to the leadership of the receiver and this board back in 1995, that legislation went forward. So,
And we're also the ones this year that are pushing it for all the towns to adopt similar
Right.
ones, and that we're kind of the leading on that.
so thank you very much. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We have discussion.
I just don't know why you'd make it harder to pay taxes, especially in a state that taxes as heavily as New York.
That was the discussion. Okay, further discussion on the item. Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Whitey.
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Picallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Authorizing highway superintendent to sign shared services agreement with his state of New York Department of Transportation, whereas New York Department of Transportation, New York's NYSDOT is offered to have a shared services agreement with the town of Cicero. Now therefore be resolved, the Cicero Town Board authorizes the Cicero Highway Superintendent to sign a 2-year shared services agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation to promote and assist the maintenance of state and Cicero roads and highways, and provide a cost savings by maximizing the effective utilization of both parties' resources.
Second.
Second discussion on number 17. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Whitey.
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Picallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you, Nancy.
Town Board approval to pay for an exhaust repair to truck number 35. Whereas the Highway Department needs to pay for an exhaust emergency repair to truck number 35 and steering gear box for truck number 29. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board approves the repairs/parts from Tracy Road Equipment in the amount of $8,067.98 from account code DB 513046.
Second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Pacalo. Discussion on number 18. Clerk will call the roll.
Council Blakey.
Yes.
Councilor Carr.
Yes.
Councilor White.
Yes.
Councilor McCallum.
Aye.
Supervisor Myers.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Mike.
Commercial gaming licenses for James Harvey Spire, 787 American Legion Commercial Gaming License. Whereas the town of Cicero has considered the request of the James Harvey Spire, 787 American Legion organization for a commercial gaming license to consider ongoing bingo operations at the property located at 5575 Legionnaire Drive in Cicero. And whereas the town of Cicero finds the proposed operation, if conditionally approved, serves a public entertainment need. And whereas the proposed operation will not serve as a deterrent to the neighborhood or community, and it will be not present a danger to the environment in which the operation is proposed. Now therefore be it resolved, the town of Cicero approves the issuance of a commercial gaming license to the James Harvey Spire 787 American Legion located at 5575 Legionnaire Drive in Cicero for the strict and restricted purpose of conducting bingo games with the condition that games will be held on behalf of the Syracuse Brigadier Organization only, and that will expire 12/31/2022.
Second.
Second discussion. Clerk will call the roll.
Council Blakey.
Yes.
Councilor Carr.
Yes.
Councilor White.
Yes.
Councilor McCallum.
Aye.
Supervisor Myers.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Mike.
Town Board approves miscellaneous items to be deposited and declare a surplus.
Dispose.
Oh, disposed. Thank you so much. My glasses aren't on. It's not my night tonight, apparently. Resolve the town board approves the items listed below as old safety issue and no use to the town and declared as a surplus. 1, 31 old metal chairs, safety issue. 2, 7 old tables, safety issue. 3, shredded GBC Shred Master 322 OS serial number V or PV17112. 5, old metal sign.
Second.
Second discussion. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Blakey.
Yes.
Councilor Carr.
Yes.
Councilor White.
Yes.
Councilor McCallum.
Aye.
Supervisor Myers.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you.
Sanitary sewer emergency repair at 7789 Burton Road. Whereas on October 30th, 2021, the Onondaga County Department of Water Environmental Protection notified the town engineer that there was no sewer service to 7789 Burton Road, the Brick and Brew. And whereas after it was determined that the problem was in the public lateral to the town engineer dispatched DE Tiroli Incorporated, and the repair was performed at the cost of $8,857.01. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board approved payment to DE Tiroli Incorporated in the amount of $8,857.01. Budget code SS 812041997.
Second.
Discussion. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Blakey.
Yes.
Councilor Carr.
Yes.
Councilor White.
Yes.
Councilor McCallum.
Aye.
Supervisor Myers.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you.
Drainage maintenance and improvements contract. Whereas the town's drainage and maintenance contract was advertised and bid for the 2021 calendar year with the option of 4-year, 1-year extensions. And whereas LaFleur Constructors was awarded the bid and has performed very satisfactorily. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board approved a 1-year extension with LaFleur Constructors Incorporated through 2022, budget code SD 085-404-0400.
Second.
Discussion on number 22.
Mr. Jermaine, is this an exclusive contract? Does this limit in any way our ability to use town resources like the highway department to do drainage maintenance or improvements? Okay, thank you.
Clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Blakey.
Yes.
Councilor Carr.
Yes.
Councilor White.
Yes.
Councilor McCallum.
Aye.
Supervisor Myers.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you.
Sanitary sewer emergency repair and maintenance contract. Whereas the town's sanitary sewer emergency repair and maintenance contract was advertised in a bid of the 2021 calendar year with the option of 4 1-year extensions. And whereas DE Tiroli Incorporated was awarded the bid and has performed very satisfactorily. Now therefore be it resolved,
the town board approve a one-year extension with DE Tiroli Incorporated through 2022. SS 8120419997. Budget code.
Second.
Discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke?
Yes.
Counselor Carr?
Yes.
Counselor White?
Yes.
Counselor Capello?
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer?
Item is adopted, yes. Thank you. Okay, number 24, the board approves a pay modification for police clerk Andrea Castro, whereas in order to be consistent with other police clerk pays and pay rates in Onondaga County and retain qualified employees within the Cicero Police Department, along with budget funding in line B 31, 2014 to cover the increase. Now therefore be resolved that this town board approves the pay increase for Andrea Castro as a part-time police clerk to $20 per hour effective 12/5/2021.
Second.
Discussion on the item. I'm going to be voting against this. We just passed the budget, and to make a pay modification immediately after the budget was passed, I don't think it's appropriate. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke?
Yes.
Counselor Carr?
Yes.
Counselor White?
Yes.
Counselor Capello?
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer?
No, item is adopted. Number 25, set 2022 organizational meeting. This item is set up as a regular item. I'll also be doing a special town board meeting notice to accomplish this. Resolve the town of Cicero shall hold the 2022 organizational meeting on Monday, January 3rd, 2020. It says 2021, it should be 2022. Please clerk will please note that correction. At 6:30 PM at 8236 Burton Road, Cicero, New York.
Second. And I don't know if anybody wants to live 2021 again.
Thank you. Further discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Duly noted. Thank you. Counselor Boyke?
Yes.
Counselor Carr?
Yes.
Counselor White?
Yes.
Counselor Capello?
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer?
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Tracy?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to make a quick mention. We have been extremely busy in the town clerk's office. We're trying to keep the holiday season festive and all the people that have been coming into the office, all of the things that have been going on in people's lives right now. I just wanted to personally wish everyone, their families and their pets, because we do get to see a lot of them in our office, and they bring pictures in and all of that, a very happy, healthy and safe holiday. Thank you.
Moving on to number 27, discussion. I'll start out with my portion. I'd like to thank the residents of the town of Cicero for the opportunity to be an elected official for a number of years here in Cicero, not just to be a representative or trustee, but to be their advocate. My family and I thank you. I know that some may be happy that the town just passed the town budget that was just under the tax cap. The increase was 2.6%, not 2% that most think. But the residents should not be happy with a 2.6 property tax increase. 2.6 means that the cost of government went up even after over 1,800 residents had their assessments go up. Second, do not buy the story that it's just the way it is. We know that New York is a high tax state, but we are also in a county that is in the top 10% of effective property taxes in the country. On top of that, we're in the top 3 high tax towns that are similar to Cicero in Onondaga County. Other towns are having taxes go up, but our rate is going up faster. One of the causes is the growing number of full-time employees. More full-time employees means not just more payroll, but more overtime to fill when full-timers they're serving are on vacation, sick time, training, as well as more costs for part-timers to fill in when the full-timers are out. Then there's the cost of retired health insurance that runs from $600,000 to over $1 million per retired employee. On the town website, you can find 2 reports outlining this unfunded liability of over $10 million. The Gatsby 45 and 78. They were done by a local actuary. And these are old figures that need to be updated because we now have more employees. The Medicare Advantage plan that the town has introduced will help to mitigate this unfunded liability, but the growing number of employees and benefits overcomes these savings. Some will say that there are more innovative savings available. I say to look into them very carefully. They are very difficult to undo after they are put in place, and Cicero is too small to make these plans accurate. What else is causing this property tax problem? In the last 10 years, the town has lost population while Manlius, Van Buren, Lysander, and others have grown in population. The Prado homes. These are $400,000 and higher homes in our community. From 2010, there have been one Prado homes development in Lafayette, 2 in Manlius. This next year, 2022, will mark 2 times the Prado homes have been in the town of Onondaga, and there have been 4 in the town of Clay, and none in Cicero. These towns get the tax money while we get the traffic congestion. Cicero is attracting some development, but solar projects, senior housing, and storage units will not pay for our growing number of full-time employees. What can be done to correct this situation? First, the true costs of every department and program must be visible and viewed to determine if it is a need or a want. The taxpayers deserve to have part of the savings returned to them in lower taxes. Second, part of the savings must go into training and new technology to make our employees and government in general more efficient. Again, I'd like to thank the residents of the town of Cicero for the opportunity to serve. Any comments,
I'd
discussion?
like to make a comment, not in regards to your comments, but obviously, I also would like to thank everyone for the opportunity to serve. I'm going to become one of those taxpayers on the other side soon, so I'm not going away. I will be here in a different capacity, but when I chose to be a public servant, I chose it for a reason, and that was because I believed in it. So I will continue to be a public servant, only I won't be elected. So I'll be around. Thank you so much. I also wanted to say that the Christmas wreaths this year, I sort of started a little tradition. And this year I brought Christmas wreaths into all of the departments. And the participation is amazing. So when you people are in the town hall, walk around and look at the wreaths on the doors. We're going to have, there's a contest. So we have winners and there will be no losers this year. Everyone's going to be a winner in some capacity. But really, it was fun to see the opportunity that everyone took. And I gave them a deadline to December 1st and I couldn't believe it. Everyone had theirs done. There's only one problem though. You got to go over to the highway department in order to see theirs. I'm going to send the pictures to Tracy to put them online so people can see them. But our highway department, the wreath is a little heavy because it's got a helmet on, it's got a vest on, and it's got all those opportunities of caution. So anyway, thanks again for everybody participating, but I'll be around. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the discussion.
Yes, for those who are unaware, the Cicero Falcons Tiny Mite cheerleaders went to the national championships at Universal Studios in Orlando this week. They are the only Cicero team to make it. They placed 5th in the nation, which was disappointing for them, but still really good for Cicero. Thank you.
Thank you. Public input. Mrs. Snyder.
I had a lot of things I was going to say, but I only want to ask for one thing. In the spirit of the season, we all have families, we all have trials and tribulations we're going through. I would hope that the board would tonight, before we close, put an end to the situation with our planning board member. If it's something you guys want to do later, that's fine. But I think at this point in time, because of the season, the reason, the things that this individual is going through right now, we ought to eliminate that as one of his ongoing concerns that he has to literally worry about whether the telephone rings or somebody knocks on his door. I wish we could just vote to just get rid of it. Just stop it now. And let's start with a new year in 2022, please.
Thank you. I think I saw another hand. Rose?
Rose Sinopoli, 6471 East Taft Road, East Syracuse, New York, 13057. I really just wanted to talk a little bit about accomplishments and thankfulness. I wanted to thank the
Rose,
board.
could you please move the microphone down just a little bit? That'd be great. Thank
Can
you.
you hear me?
That's better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wanted to talk today just a little bit about accomplishments and thankfulness. I've worked with the board for like the last 6 months, 2 issues. One was the speed limit on East Taft Road, which we got changed down to 40 miles an hour. And the accomplishment of getting the $100,000 approved for the engineering study for the Hiller Heights area. I really appreciate, and the rest of the group that I've worked with in that area really appreciates the work that you guys have done. I know that it's not always easy being a town official. I've kind of said a few times, maybe I might want to do it, but I don't think so. I'm gonna let you do it. I might just support you. Your life gets filled with all of our problems, and you have to decide which are going to get your attention. And those of us working on the project with the storm drains on Hedgewater and Vernon Road South, I really appreciate the work that you've done and the help that you've given us in the last few months. I wanted to wish Bill and Judy well. I know that they're still going to be involved, but they won't be on the board, but I know they'll still be at the town board meetings. And I also wanted to wish all the town board members and everyone who works for the town of Cicero, wish you a very Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rose.
Thank you.
Any other hands? I don't see one.
I just wanted to promote and announce the Cicero's Holiday Drive-Thru event that's coming up on this Saturday evening. You're all invited to. It's going to be held between 6 and 8 p.m. Over at what was called the Twin Rinks behind the Cicero Library. We're going to be handing out lots of goodies to the families and kids involved. We're requesting that you sign up just so that we have a good idea of how many people are coming through, but you don't absolutely have to. But again, just show up between 6 and 8 o'clock, and it's going to go rain or shine, and we hope to see you all out there. Thank you. Yes.
Hearing nothing, no additional comments, I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.